Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Creative Finance Playbook podcast. I'm your host, Jen. And today we are going to talk all about hiring and firing, what it's like to grow a team, who your first hire should be, and what it really looks like when you're bringing people into your world of business and possibly even life, and what it takes to really be able to do it all, because you cannot do it all. I might need to say that 1,000 more times for some of us who are a little bit hard-headed and maybe a bit perfectionist, guilty. I try to do it all, and guys, you can't. Okay. There are people that can do things better than you. I know, shocking. And if they can't do it better than you, maybe they can do it at least 80% as good as you can. And 80% done is better than you doing it. And I just love that. I think I got that from Dan Martell's book, Buy Back Your Time. That's my current book that I'm reading right now, and highly recommend it to go along with exactly what we're talking about today. So, are your employees growing your business and bringing you back joy to life and business, or are they holding it back or causing some just unhappiness? It's something that you really need to evaluate and have quarterly check-ins with your teammates and make sure that things are going correctly, or as best as they could be, and really be a great leader. And I think that is a skill that you just can't ever stop. Always need to be pouring into yourself, surrounding yourself with some really great mentors and coaches, and pouring into, like, how do I become the best leader possible? Because at the end of the day, you can't just point a finger and say it's all that person's fault. Because I know Joe does too. We believe that it's from the top down, right? It's leadership. And so let's talk about a little bit of some of the challenges. I'm gonna get real. I'm gonna share from my heart, and I'm also gonna just open up about our journey here and what that looked like. I know we've talked about it a little bit on some podcasts, but I really want to paint that picture for everybody, because in the very beginning, if you are just starting out, you are a solopreneur. I didn't really know that was a word, but I kind of liked it when I did hear it. So a solopreneur isn't necessarily an entrepreneur. A solopreneur means that you're just doing it all by yourself. You are generating the leads, you are talking to the leads, you're closing those leads, right? You're talking about all the things that encompass a real estate business, but you're wearing every single one of those hats. And that's just kind of how it is in the very beginning, because you can't train someone else to do these jobs properly if you yourself don't know how to do them. And I firmly believe that, and I will definitely have a discussion with anybody who thinks that you can just plop in someone and have them and figure it out, because there's so many things that go behind the scenes with your team culture, how you want people to be spoken to on the phone with sellers, and everything in between. So what does it even look like to hire? Who should your first hire even be? And I would suggest not to be as stubborn as my husband and I were. So we started procuring rental properties, right? In 2008, one property slowly but surely at a time. And by 2016, we started learning the creative finance. 2017, we started implementing rent to own. And that's when things started picking up. But it wasn't until 2020, when we went full time, that we realized we really needed some extra help. But now that I'm saying that, honestly, looking back, we did hire a bit of a virtual assistant. It looked totally different. It was like through our mentorship program that we were in, and they would call a set of leads a couple of times. And it was very much like we didn't have much control over what was happening. We would get like a little report. It wasn't very conducive. And we even did try to hire a family member to help us out with rent to own buyers, but we didn't really know what we were doing, but we tried it, right? And that's the point. Like, you try stuff out and it didn't work out. Okay. So fast forward 2020, we had a mentor who said, Jen and Joe, you can't do everything. If you're waking up in the morning and you're just going 100 miles a minute, and then you're crashing at the end of the night, and you're literally trying to do all aspects of real estate investing, you're going to burn out. And he's right. Let me just say that first and foremost. Burnout is real. And, hustle should be a season, not a lifestyle. So there's moments where you'll be putting in a little more effort and energy, but sleep is important. great food and health, is good for your health. You need to be able to move your body. You need to have friends and family time, whatever that looks like for you. But you're not a robot. You are a person at the end of the day. So our first hire were acquisitionists. So we were looking for people who are going to help talk to sellers for us. That may not be your first hire. So for us, again, this is 2020. We've got a rental portfolio of about 10 properties. We are now trying to pick up momentum and speed and buy more properties. And so we needed more sellers to talk to. So that was our first official hire. And then on the flip side, our dispo person that we hired, she was going to talk to rent to own buyers because we would buy the houses. Well, now we had houses that we need to find rent to own buyers for. But looking back, I would say there's a few hires I think that we should have definitely implemented a lot quicker. One would have been some sort of personal assistant, whether it's a virtual assistant or an executive assistant. At 10 properties, even though there's no property management involved with rent to own, I really feel like that assistant role was something that we slept on far too long. We needed to have that way back when. So look at your life right now. And if you're listening, and you can, if you're not driving, take out a piece of paper or your phone, your notes section, and just jot down, like, what are some of the things that you're doing all day long or in extra free time that you might have where you could delegate that out, right? So kind of like just think about what is it that you really hate doing or that's taking a lot of your time that somebody else could be doing because you could be in a better income producing role. And I think that's really important. So you also need to figure out what is your income producing role. Well, if you're listening to this because you want to buy real estate, talking to sellers and closing deals, that's where your income is going to be made, right? So for you listening, if you're a real estate investor, you need to be closing deals. So to buy back your time a bit, is it an Instacart shopper, right? Like make sure that's being happening on the outside in the personal life side. Maybe you have a rental portfolio and you're still managing your books, you're still collecting the rent yourself, you're still doing all these little odds and end things that don't take a ton of time, but when you add it up throughout the week, month, year, that's a lot of prime time right there. So it just depends on the stage of your business that you're in, quite honestly. So I would say some sort of virtual assistant, personal assistant. There's so many out there. You can hire part-time. You can start for 5 hours a week, 10 hours a week. And it has never been easier to train somebody these days because everything that you do can be done on your computer or your phone and you record it. And so in the book, Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell, he even says, take 3 videos of yourself doing whatever the task is that you're doing. And then you can send that off to the person that you're training, because now that you've done it 3 times, you probably forgot something in the first one, you said it differently in the second, and by the third, like it's like nailed down perfectly. So 3 videos of the same thing. I love that idea. And, it's just really important to know that there's so many people out there. You might not find the right fit the first time around, and that's okay. So give yourself some grace. Know that it's your business, right? So it's kind of crazy if you're used to, for me, it was teaching. So I was used to giving directions, instructions, and guiding and leading and teaching students. But when you have your own business and you're running a company, and all of a sudden it gets a little scary, right? Like at least it did for me. And so I had to kind of get out of my own head. And again, it comes like back to leadership. So what am I listening to? Who's going to mentor me next? Who's going to help bring me up and lead this, group of people that are working with me now? It's just really important to think about that. So hiring, I think that one of the best tips that I would definitely say is hire with intention, and maybe hire 2 or 3 people at a time for the position, depending on what it is. So if we're talking virtual assistants who are going to be attending to leads on Facebook or calling or responding to any sort of task that you're giving them, sometimes 2 or 3 is a great way to hire. And then you'll figure out who maybe fits that role best or better. The same thing goes for if you hire on 1099. So when we first got started, we didn't hire and pay a payroll. we simply hired 1099 independent contractors. We paid in education and we paid in commission. And so we structured all of that so that everyone that would work with us knew that like the training was part of like, the education training was part of their payment. And it really can be beneficial. The only downside to that would be they probably have the entrepreneurial bug and they also want to work for themselves. So the chances are they're going to leave you one day. And it's a bittersweet feeling because you're super excited for them, but also, starts the hiring process all over again and you lost one of your best workers. But it's okay, right? Because you want them to live their life and be truly happy too. So I would say it's a great way to grow your team in the very beginning. So I also think that when hiring, you need to have very, very clear expectations. And this, I'm going to be very open. This just happened today, actually. So we recently onboarded a new virtual assistant for our real estate team. I think she was with us for maybe 2 weeks. And the process of onboarding her and training her, I've learned some lessons. So we've been doing this for some time now. We've had a little bit of turnover in the last few months with some virtual assistants. So one of the main things is like making sure that these other virtual assistants don't have another job, because for some reason it seems to be very popular, and I can understand why, is they are trying to work for multiple people at once. And I understand that money can be made fairly simply, but it depends on what the task is. And so for us, we are very big on tracking KPIs. I don't install software. I don't need to see every second of every move on my virtual assistant's desktop, laptop. But what I do need to see are conversations with sellers, calls being made, things happening on the CRM, like it needs to be there. And then I need that tracked, right? So KPIs, key performance indicators, are really, really important for your business. So that should be very clear, clearly defined, clearly set. And so there's no questions. And what I noticed was in my end of day report that I get from my other virtual assistant, I didn't see any KPIs from the new hire that I just had brought on. And, Thanksgiving being the other week and just life happening, it came to my attention. I'm like, wait, well, I'm going to bring this up on the meeting. And I realized that she was never trained. Somehow that SOP just wasn't there. It didn't happen. And so she hasn't been tracking. And so I politely but firmly made it very clear that this is how we do it. We need to make sure that we are going through. We use Notion, which is a software on your computer, really simple to use. You go through and plug in your information. So how many calls you made, how many sellers came in through the Facebook comment section, how many came in through the CRM, and all that information is then documented, because as a business owner, I need to be able to look at data to say, where's my bottleneck, right? Because what's most important as an investor is how many contracts do we write up? How many offers were made? How many closing calls did my closer get on? How many, and just it goes backwards like that. And so I need to be able to just track these numbers black and white. Well, after I went over this and explained it, we got a message about 45 minutes later saying that this particular virtual assistant didn't feel that this was the right fit for her. And I don't know if it was just too much to ask for her, but at the end of the day, like, I don't know what was going on in the background. I don't know if she had another job or if it truly was just too much to ask, but it wasn't surprising, I guess. My point being is I'm at the point now where when you've done it enough times and you hire enough people, you bring them on board, you just have to, it is what it is. And people are going to people. And so I've learned also to not accept excuses and to kind of have that like, hey, this is, the way it is. Like you get like 1 or 2 or maybe 3 strikes, but then you're out. And I don't think that it's being harsh, but I think it's being firm and fair, because the business needs to run as smoothly as possible, especially if you are trying to step out of the day-to-day, and you need to know that you have the right people in the right seats. So definitely having those KPIs daily, weekly training available. And then it could be also simple things like if you do have a great documented SOP, the standard operating procedures, right? Like every step of your company, if the same questions keep getting asked and you have to repeatedly say like, hey, have you checked the SOP? Like maybe this person isn't the right fit because they're just either are too lazy to go back and read them, or they're just not comprehending what it is you're asking. So having some of those things I think are important. And then those are red flags, right? Like you can tell pretty early on. So they say like hire slowly, fire quickly. I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like you just gotta, I don't want to say go with your gut. You want to really present with your data, but also the culture feeling is somewhat of a gut, I think. Like you'll know if somebody comes and they join and they're smiling and they have a great attitude and they're really trying and they're working, versus the camera's off, excuses, I can't, I wasn't, like maybe it's like Debbie Downer, things are happening all the time. It all plays into it. So just know like what your expectations are. Have it very well known too in your company, like what your culture is, how you expect everybody to be treated, how you treat people is really important too. And, at the end of the day, it is a business. And I think that's really hard for some people. And you have to know too that if you're going to run a business, you have to like people. You have to understand and have the compassion, but also the firmness of like what's acceptable and what's unacceptable. And as you start scaling, it can be a little bit overwhelming trying to figure out HR things, or like, time off, or what about this and what about that. And I know for me, it was a huge hurdle to get from a 1099 position to like starting to run payroll. Like that was really crazy to me, but you just do it like everything else. Like you rip the Band-Aid off and you surround yourself with the people who can help you. So for me, it was ADP. So how do I let go of someone? Honestly, a lot of times they let themselves go. Like today, she openly communicated that it was just, she was not the right fit. And so I don't necessarily have to fire that person. This has happened a couple of times lately with the virtual assistants, where I think that they've had multiple jobs and they just kind of like disappear. And then we are like, okay, well, it's not working out. It's a little bit different too if you have people that have been on your team for a long time. It was really, we had a really, I would say, long run with a group of girls from 2021 until, what's 21? Yeah, I think it was like 2021 springtime, like April 2021 until December of 2022. We had a handful of acquisitionists and one, full-time closer. And it just got to, the end of year. And we were thinking about opening up an office here in Florida. And we just thought, things were, the culture wasn't happy anymore. It wasn't, I don't even know if fun is the right word, because sometimes business isn't always fun, but it wasn't working. Like promises or expectations or hopes that certain people were kind of presenting, they weren't living up to them. And when you start like dreading a team phone call, or you start getting like worked up about like, oh, is this person even doing this? Or someone else gets mad about something, it just becomes a little bit messy. And when it becomes messy and unfixable, I guess is the word I would use, if that's a word, you just part ways. So ideally you leave on good terms, but there's also like some people, they just come in and they leave, and like that's all. They've maybe worked for a day or a week or maybe a year and a half, and you part ways, and it just is what it is. You don't need to have stern discussions or yelling or screaming or any of that. It's at the end of the day, it's business, right? And so clear expectations, tracking the KPIs, and if your business is thriving and you're feeling great about how everybody is, then it should be good. I think that we also are a team that loves to lead with like the carrot method versus the stick. Like, I don't want to sit here and have to like, hey, this didn't get done. Why isn't it this? Like, who didn't you call? And why isn't this happening? And then like, that's not how Joe and I like to run things. It's more of the carrot, right? Like, okay, like we're really close to this deal. How do we close this? Or we're so close to finding a rent to own buyer here. Like, how do we find, what is the next thing that we need to do? How can I help you? Right. And I think, again, it goes back to the leader, where I always ask myself, what could I do better? How could I be a better leader? In communication? Oh my gosh. Like probably the first thing I should have mentioned here, but like above all else, like over communicate, text, call, email, like document everything. Make sure that you are, if one thing's going on, that everybody knows. And it's very tricky as a business owner to get caught up in like so many things, right? Like we're excited, we have visions, and we want, like shiny objects can come along. And so just making sure everybody has clear roles and expectations. And if the lines are a little blurry, like have those honest conversations too of like, hey, I know you're mostly in this position, but you are also doing this. And I really could use your help, just for right now until this position is filled. And having those quarterly meetings, I think, really helps. We love also taking time with the team to do like team lunches or, at Christmas time. Instead of like a Christmas party, I've taken the girls to a spa, and Joe would go, gamble at the casino. And so just having some fun, making sure you build that in there as well. And really just try to empower them, find out what their goals, dreams, visions are too, and how do you help them like rise to them. Because if you have the right people on your team, you're all going to want to work towards the goal, towards the vision together, hit them, and then like keep going, right? Like what's the next thing you guys want to accomplish together? So emails, I think, would be the most effective way of letting someone go overseas. That's how we've typically conducted that, is just sending a polite email. Or even if you've hired somebody to be like an independent contractor for you on your team, you pay them X amount per month, like an email works for that. But like I said, conversations, the carrot versus the stick, and just making sure that you're in the right seat yourself. Because I think that if you aren't doing what you are truly meant to do, then it could just like bog everything down, and we can spread ourselves really thin. And I'm very guilty of that. So I think too, if you're feeling everything spiraling, I don't know where to start. Maybe you've started to grow a team and you just like want to fire everybody. Don't do that. But like slow down and figure out what is the next right step. What is the next thing I need to do in order to work on this department? And, just know that there are so many people out there. There are business coaches and life coaches and so many books and mentorships and all of the resources out there, that just find, don't go overboard with it, but find one or two that are really going to help you, and just stick with it, and stay positive, and don't burn out, because I think that's really easy to do too. So definitely first hires, again, virtual assistant might help with it might even be someone helping you out with personal things like Instacart shopping or mowing the lawn or hiring a cleaning lady. Start looking at how to buy back your time in little ways like that. And it does get easier. And it's crazy because now we're at the point where we have a handful of virtual assistants. We have our coaching business. We have our real estate business. I even have a house manager. And that was a very difficult position for me to hire, because I am more than capable of making meals and washing dishes and taking care of the laundry. But so is the girl that we hired, and she's fantastic. And she can run the kids here or there, and she can go do errands for me. And she's like a bubbly, bright, sunshiny energy in my house that can take care of all of that, so that I can come and do a podcast like this, or I can spend time with my coaching clients, or I can create content for my business page for a real estate business. So you have to know that, again, you can't do it all. It's okay to hire people. It's okay to fire people. It's okay to feel like you may not have it all figured out yet, but that's the beauty of your business. Like, it's yours. So if you like this kind of content, please let us know below what else you'd like to hear more about. I love getting real and getting raw and sharing a little bit more behind the scenes on the operation side of things, because yes, we can talk about analyzing deals and all of that, but sometimes it's really cool to hear about how other people are doing things. And I love sharing it, and I hope it inspires you too. So if you are even remotely thinking about getting into your next rental property without banks, without using credit, and little to no money out of pocket, then make sure that you go grab our How to Score Free Leads guide right on our website, creativefinanceplaybook.com, and know that you can be posting in those Facebook groups and maybe hire out someone else to do the grocery shopping. Because if you are talking to the right people, that could change your family's life, right? You could buy a rental property and have a cash flowing asset without any banks, without using your credit, with little to no money down, and just cover some closing costs. And you'll be able to continue to do that and allow other people to work their magic in whatever craft it is that they do, whether it's laundry, dishes, Instacart shopping. I mean, we all have our places, right? So that's the beautiful thing. So go grab that free guide off of our website if you need to go get some free leads there. And until next time, I'll see you guys later. Bye.